was sometime in the middle of fall a few years back when this all happened. I was working as a cashier at Spirit Halloween, one of those seasonal gigs I picked up every year. Honestly, I loved it. Out of all the jobs I'd had, Spirit was the most fun. My day was mostly helping people find costumes, ringing up decorations, and watching excited kids try on masks that were way too big for them. It wasn't hard work, and compared to places like Walmart or Target, it felt like a break. But, like any job, it had its downsides. And at Spirit Halloween, it wasn't the ghosts or the creepy animatronics that made the place scary, it was the people. Most customers were great, but then you had the annoying kids running wild through the aisles. The guys who thought it was hilarious to jump out wearing fake blood and rubber knives, and worst of all, the shoplifters. I didn't expect stealing to be such a big problem, but it happened more often than you'd think. Since we weren't allowed to chase anyone, all we could do was watch closely and try to stop things before they got out of hand. One night, near closing time, I was working the register alone while my coworkers stocked shelves. That's when two teenage girls walked in. They looked maybe 16, laughing loudly, taking selfies, and filming TikToks like they owned the place. Right away, I had that gut feeling, the kind that tells you trouble's about to start. My heart was racing as I ran up to them, adrenaline taking over. "Excuse me," I said firmly, "I just saw you put those things in your bags." One of them scoffed, rolling her eyes. "Chill out, lady. We were gonna buy them, we just didn't want to use baskets." Yeah, right. I'd heard that line 100 times before. I told them to hand over the stuff and I wouldn't call the cops, but instead, they started cursing at me, calling me names. Then one of them tried to bolt. I shouldn't have done it, but I grabbed her arm to stop her. That's when the other girl came out of nowhere, tackling me to the ground. My body hit the floor so hard I couldn't breathe. As I tried to push myself up, I saw her aiming something at me, and before I could react, a burning wave of pepper spray exploded in my face. I screamed as my eyes caught fire, my skin felt like it was melting, and I couldn't see a thing. I stumbled, crashing into shelves, knocking down boxes and decorations, gasping for air, until I heard my coworker's voice calling my name. They grabbed me, helped me up, and rushed me to the bathroom as I kept choking and crying, my whole face burning like hell itself. They called an ambulance right away and I was rushed to the hospital, my face still burning and my eyes stinging like fire. The next few minutes were absolute agony, every blink and breath a struggle, and the pain lingered for hours afterward, even after I could finally see and breathe normally again. Miraculously, I was okay, though shaken to my core. As for those girls, they had vanished from the store long before, disappearing into the night like ghosts. It didn't take long for the cops to track them down at their homes, and they were arrested, but the legal aftermath was messy. Because I'd grabbed one of them, my actions were technically against store policy, and their lawyers tried to claim self-defense, arguing their assault justified what happened. In the end, justice was served, though they weren't locked up for very long. That night changed how I saw the job, the risks we take, and how quickly things can spiral out of control in a flash. A reminder that real danger sometimes hides behind the most ordinary masks. Have you ever had a moment where things turned terrifying in seconds? Drop a comment and share your story. And don't forget to check out our other chilling fall horror stories on the channel. Trust me, you won't want to miss them. 2 women were arrested after a shocking attack on a Spirit Halloween employee in North London, Ontario. Police were called around 9:40 p.m. Wednesday night after the employee was pepper sprayed during what started as a routine shoplifting incident. The women had been seen stuffing items into their bags, and when confronted, things quickly escalated into a heated argument. One employee ended up being sprayed with pepper spray, leaving them in agonizing pain, though thankfully no serious injuries occurred. The attackers fled the store, but police tracked them down to their homes and made arrests. While both women were later released and are due back in London court, this incident is just part of a worrying pattern The victim reports that over the past 3 months, store employees have faced 7 different attacks. It's a stark reminder of how quickly ordinary situations can turn dangerous, and how everyday jobs can unexpectedly put people in real danger. Have you ever experienced something that seemed harmless, but suddenly became terrifying? Share your story in the comments, and check out the rest of our channel for more true fall horror stories that will make your skin crawl. Every fall, when the air turns crisp and the leaves start to drop, most people think of cozy sweaters, pumpkin spice, and Halloween fun. But for me it's different. The sound of rustling leaves and the smell of autumn air send a chill straight down my spine. I can't walk into a Spirit Halloween without my heart racing, terrified that I'll see those same faces again. The ones that turned an ordinary work night into a nightmare. It's strange how one moment can change the way you see an entire season forever. So yeah, maybe people complain about school starting or the cold setting in, but for me, fall will always bring back the fear, the panic, and that burning sting I'll never forget. Years ago, I was dating a guy named Kenneth, but everyone called him Kenny. He had this stocky, muscular build, definitely my type, and after my last relationship ended when my ex left me after our son was born, I thought Kenny might be different. At first, things were fine, but slowly he started showing a controlling side. He'd interrogate me about every little thing, grab my phone, scroll through my messages, always accusing me of cheating. If he thought he found proof, he'd get violent, he'd make threats, break stuff, and basically make it impossible to do anything without his approval, so I stopped telling him my plans. One day, after work, I went to a friend's birthday. My son was at my mom's and Kenny was supposed to be working late, so I didn't think he'd know. But when I got home, there he was, standing at the door. Panic hit me. I tried to explain, but he grabbed me and threw me inside. I ran to the bedroom, packing a bag to leave, but he came in and tried to pin me down. I fought with everything I had, finally broke free, and drove straight to my mom's. That night, I told her everything. The fear, the threats, the abuse. We called the police, he was kicked out, I filed a restraining order, blocked all his numbers and socials, and even changed the locks. I thought it was over. But a few weeks later, while watching TV with my son, I got a random text. It was an unknown number, but deep down, I knew it was Kenny. The first few words in the message proved it. "It's going to take more than that to stop me." My stomach dropped. It had only been a few weeks since the restraining order, and he was already breaking it. I tried to ignore the text, but seconds later my phone started ringing. I just wanted one peaceful night with my son, but there he was, still trying to control me, to scare me. I felt my anger rise, mixed with fear and disbelief. How could someone I once trusted turn into this monster? Then I looked toward the living room window and froze. Kenny was standing right outside, his face half lit by the streetlight, a sick grin across his face, holding his phone up like he'd been watching us for a while. My hands started shaking. "Let me in," he said through the glass. I turned to my son and whispered, "Baby, go to your room and hide." My heart was pounding so hard it hurt. Then Kenny said something that made my skin crawl, something vile that I can't even repeat without feeling sick. When I told him to leave or I'd call the cops, he didn't stop. He walked straight to the door and started pounding, trying to break it open. I grabbed my taser from the drawer and ran to my son's room, locking the door behind us. I could hear him yelling outside, the doorknob rattling, his footsteps moving around the house. That's when I dialed 911, my hands trembling so bad I almost dropped the phone. All I could think about was keeping my son safe, because in that moment I knew Kenny was capable of anything. Then I waited, heart pounding, listening to Kenny pounding on the door, shaking the walls like he was trying to tear the house apart. I was ready for anything, ready to fight tooth and nail to protect my son and myself. Every second felt like an eternity, my ears straining for every footstep, every breath he might take. And just when I thought I couldn't take the suspense any longer, the pounding stopped. Relief hit me like a wave as the flashing lights of police cars lit up the yard and Kenny bolted. He ran across the freeway and dove straight into the corn maze next door, which was still under construction for Halloween. The tall stalks twisted into narrow, winding paths, perfect for someone like him to hide, and it crushed me to know he was somewhere out there while I had planned to take my son to this place weeks later. The police quickly surrounded the maze, their flashlights cutting through the darkness as they methodically searched every inch. My son and I huddled in the patrol cruiser, both of us terrified that he might somehow find a way back to us. Hours seemed to drag by as the cops combed the entire 4-acre maze, checking every tunnel and turn, every shadow between the corn stalks. Just when it felt like he might have vanished completely, one officer's shout rang out. They had found him hiding in a small chicken coop owned by the maze's grower. The tension finally broke, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I exhaled, knowing my son and I were safe, at least for that night. Kenny was arrested and locked up for breaking the restraining order, but even now I can't shake the feeling that this isn't over. Every fall, when the air turns crisp and the cornfields start to rise, that old fear creeps back in. The fear that he might come back. The story that still haunts me was inspired by a real event that sounds almost too terrifying to be true. One chilly Friday evening, police began searching for a man named Ryan Kenneth Watt, 29, after his ex-girlfriend reported he had violated a restraining order by constantly texting and calling her. Watt, described as a transient with a long history of stalking behavior, vanished when officers tried to find him at a homeless encampment. But the next morning, just as the sun rose, they spotted him again. And that's when things got insane. Watt bolted across the freeway and disappeared into a massive corn maze that was still being built for Halloween. The place stretched for acres, with endless twisting paths and towering stalks that made it almost impossible to see more than a few feet ahead. Police surrounded the entire field, called in the California Highway Patrol, and even brought in a plane to circle above. For 2 long hours they searched every turn and tunnel, flashlights cutting through the shadows. Just when they thought he'd vanished into thin air, one officer noticed a small chicken coop near the maze's edge. He kicked the door open, and there Watt was, crouched in the dark like some kind of ghost waiting to strike. He was finally arrested without a fight, but knowing he had been watching his ex's house and even her son's school before all this, it's enough to make your skin crawl. Fall isn't just about pumpkins and cozy nights. It's when some nightmares come alive. This all went down in the fall of 2010. Back then, I was married. My wife and I were raising our daughter Jennifer, and honestly, things were far from perfect. Jennifer had been seeing this guy Daniel, a low-life line cook who acted like one of those bad boys. She thought he was attractive, thought he was exciting, but I could see right through him. I knew he wasn't good for her, so I made them break up. Jennifer was furious at the time, yelling and storming around, but my wife and I figured she'd get over it eventually. She was still dependent on us, still living at home, and our priority was making sure she finished school without distractions. I know it sounds like the stereotypical strict dad thing, but I was trying to do what I thought was best for her. For a while, everything seemed great. Seemed like everything with Jennifer was getting good grades, and I never had to hear about that Daniel guy again. I let my guard down thinking it was over, but I should have trusted my gut. One day, I noticed Jennifer coming home later and later, and something in me immediately felt off. My gut told me she was seeing that same piece of trouble again. I knew if I confronted her without proof, I'd just get lies and excuses, so I had to catch them together. I called out of work one morning, just watching, waiting. As she left the house, I followed her, heart pounding, and just as I suspected, she didn't go near school. Rage took over. I got out of the car, ran up and yanked them apart, yelling at Daniel, "Get your hands off my daughter, you scumbag." Jennifer screamed at me, trying to calm me down. "Dad, stop, you can't do this." "I'll deal with him when we get home." I ignored her for a second, glaring at Daniel. "Don't talk down to her like that, bro. Show some respect." He sneered at me, but I shot back. "Respect? I'm her father. She's too young for you. I should call the police and have you arrested, pedophile." I grabbed Jennifer, took her to school, only to discover the shocking truth. Thought she wasn't enrolled at all. Those perfect report cards she had been bringing home, all fakes, forged with Daniel's help. My head spun as the reality hit me. She hadn't been in school all semester, that she had been with him the whole time, lying, sneaking around, and pretending everything was fine. My wife nearly fainted when I brought Jennifer home and made her confess. We didn't know what to do at that moment, but one thing was clear. We had to lock her in her room to stop her from making any more mistakes while we figured out how to handle this mess. For those next few nights, our home didn't feel like a home anymore. The air was heavy, silent, and cold. We made sure Jennifer stayed locked in her room while my wife and I sat in the living room whispering about what to do next. We were desperate, talking about therapy, maybe even a program that could help our daughter get her life back on track. One night, around midnight, we were sitting there with the lights off, trying to distract ourselves with some TV just to feel normal again. Then came this knock, or more like a pounding, so loud it shook the walls. My wife and I froze. It was late. Way too late for anyone to be visiting. My heart started racing as I got up and told her to stay put. I just knew it had to be that worthless punk, Daniel, coming back to start more trouble. But before I could even reach the door, it exploded open. 3 men stormed in, shouting, waving guns, firing like maniacs. I felt a searing pain hit my side and fell to the floor, everything spinning. "Get down, where's the money?" they screamed. My wife was trying to talk, trying to reason with them, but before she could finish a sentence, one of them pulled the trigger. She dropped instantly. That image burned into my mind. I wanted to scream, to move, but my body wouldn't listen. Then I saw them grab Jennifer, pin her down, and tie her wrists. She was crying, kicking, begging. They dragged her down the hall as I lay there helpless, watching everything I cared about being ripped away in seconds. That was the moment I realized true horror doesn't always come from ghosts or monsters. It comes from real people, not while unarmed, wounded, and outnumbered. I felt a crushing wave of shame and guilt, knowing I had no way to protect my daughter from whatever they planned. My only chance was to escape while they were distracted, to get help, even if it meant leaving everything behind. I crawled, each breath burning my lungs, bleeding, desperate, until finally I made it outside. A random stranger on the sidewalk saw me, called the police, and helped me to safety. At the hospital, doctors put me in a coma just to keep me alive. When I woke, the first thing I thought about was Jennifer. Then I remembered what I had seen in the chaos. My daughter, unbound, speaking casually to one of the attackers. That gut-wrenching moment hit me like a freight train. She wasn't the victim. She and her worthless boyfriend had planned it all, hiring hitmen to kill my wife and me just so they could be together. My wife was gone, my daughter is in prison, I have nothing. And every fall, that horrifying truth comes back, sharp and cold, as if it's happening all over again. This story was inspired by a notorious, chilling fall incident that shook a family home in Ontario, Canada, on the night of November 8th, 2010, when a frantic 911 call unleashed a nightmare no one could forget. For those next few nights, our home felt like a prison. Every corner, every shadow made me tense, and we made sure Jennifer stayed locked in her room while my wife and I whispered in the living room, trying to figure out what could undo the nightmare. We talked about therapy, interventions, anything to get our daughter back on track. Then one night, around midnight, the silence was shattered by a pounding at the door. So violent it shook the walls. My heart slammed. I told my wife to stay put, my gut screaming it had to be Daniel or his friends. Before I could react, the door burst open and 3 men stormed in with guns firing wildly. I got hit, pain exploding through my side, and collapsed. My wife tried to reason with them, but in a heartbeat she was gone, shot before my eyes. Then they grabbed Jennifer, tying her up, dragging her down the hall while I lay helpless, my chest tight with fear, realizing the horror wasn't over. It had just begun. Heat. And that's where our story ends, at least for now. It's hard to even put into words the fear, the shock, and the pain that night brought, but it's a stark reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't hiding in the woods or in haunted houses. They're right in the people we think we know. I hope sharing this story helps you stay alert, trust your instincts, and never ignore the red flags in your own life. If you felt your heart racing with me tonight, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you won't miss any of our chilling tales. And I want to hear from you. What would you have done if you were in Hui Han's shoes? Could you face the unimaginable or find the courage to survive? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, check out our other videos here on the channel for more true fall horror stories that will haunt your autumn nights. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, check the Vetnir Herosex a bunch of people. And while you're at it, check out our other videos here on the channel for more true fall horror stories that will haunt your autumn night. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the fall isn't just about pumpkins and leaves. It can be the season when real-life nightmares come knocking.